I still remember that morning like it was yesterday. The kind of morning that feels heavy even before the sun rises. Our building was unusually quiet. Not the normal early morning quiet, but a heavy silence that pressed on your chest. Someone had died. Uncle David. Now Uncle David wasn't my uncle by blood, but everyone called him that, because he had a heart big enough to be a father to many. Every day you'd find him praying by the corridor window, Bible in hand, whispering verses in a calm, steady voice. He was a man of faith, a man of peace. He didn't have any children of his own, but he was like a father to many of us, especially to his youngest nephew, Junior. Junior and Uncle David were inseparable. Not just close, deeply connected, like two halves of the same spirit. Junior was the quiet type, thoughtful, reserved. You'd often find him trailing behind Uncle David, listening, learning, almost waiting for a word only his uncle could say. That morning, when the news broke that Uncle David had passed away quietly in his sleep, the building came alive with sorrow. Neighbors gathered quickly, some weeping, some silent, all heavy with grief. Mama Grace, Uncle David's wife, was inconsolable. She sat on the floor, rocking back and forth, clutching her scarf tightly, whispering between sobs, "David, my strength, why did you leave me so?" Her cries echoed through the small rooms like a mourning hymn. Mr. Samuel, Uncle David's younger brother and Junior's father, was trying his best to stay composed. His face was tight, his lips pressed together. He greeted visitors quietly, arranged chairs, and fought back tears. But Junior was different. He stood in the far corner of the living room, close to the window. Not a tear fell from his eyes, not a word came from his lips. He wasn't shaking or sobbing, he was just still. People tried to reach him. A neighbor gently touched his shoulder, whispered, "Junior, my son, it's okay to cry." He flinched away, stiff and cold. Someone else said quietly, "He's just in shock. Give him time." But something about Junior that day wasn't shock. His eyes were fixed somewhere beyond the room, somewhere unreachable. His arms hung at his sides, like they belonged to someone else. As the hours passed, more relatives and neighbors came to pay their respects. The air was thick with sorrow. Soft prayers floated from the lips of the elderly, and the scent of burning candles filled the cramped space. But Junior stayed apart. No one could reach him. By midday, the pastor had arrived to lead the final prayers before carrying Uncle David's body for the last rites. Mama Grace was carried into a chair, her tears never ceasing, hands clutching tightly to her late husband's Bible. Men gathered around the casket, ready to lift it and begin the somber walk outside. That was when Mr. Samuel called out to Junior,
"Junior, come and give your uncle a shoulder."
All eyes turned towards the boy, but Junior didn't move. Not a muscle twitched, not a step was taken. The room fell silent. Someone else repeated the call, louder this time, then another. Still, Junior stood frozen, expressionless, like a statue carved from stone. No reaction, no sign that he heard them or wanted to. It was in that moment that the first uneasy thought crossed many minds. Something wasn't right. Something far deeper than grief was settling over Junior. And we didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. The casket had just reached the doorway when it happened. Junior, still silent, still frozen in that corner, suddenly moved. His shoulders tensed, his eyes widened, and then he screamed, but not in his voice. It was Uncle David's voice, clear, deep, familiar.
"I want Junior. I want my Junior."
The shout shattered the room. People froze mid-step. The men carrying the casket stumbled. One dropped his end. Mama Grace gasped, her trembling hands flying to her mouth.
I want Junior.
He screamed again, louder this time. The room spun into chaos. Junior's body jerked, as if something had taken hold of him. He wasn't just shouting, he was becoming someone else. Uncle David's voice continued pouring out of him, loud and raw, as if pulled from the grave itself.
Where's my boy? Where's Junior?
He started moving, no, running, straight for the front door, straight for the casket, straight past it. Then, suddenly, he turned, toward the well. There was an old cement well just a few meters from the building, covered but not sealed.
I want Junior.
He ran like he wasn't afraid of anything, like something inside him was guiding him. People shouted, men chased after him. Mr. Samuel was the first to grab him by the arm, but Junior tossed him aside like he weighed nothing. Then 2 more men tried to hold him, then 4. Still, he fought with a strength that didn't make sense. Eyes wild, mouth foaming slightly.
Don't take me from him.
He screamed, his voice shifting. Sometimes his, sometimes David's. Neighbors were terrified. Some screamed, some prayed. Mama Grace collapsed again. The pastor raised his hands and began to shout prayers, calling on the blood of Jesus. Junior still struggled. It took 8 grown men to pin him down. They held his arms, his legs. He thrashed beneath them, like something alive was inside him, something fighting to stay. Someone rushed to get water. Cold water was poured over Junior's head. He gasped, froze, then started sobbing violently, the kind of sob that comes from somewhere too deep to name. He looked around as if waking from a nightmare. His eyes were back. His voice returned to normal.
Uncle is gone?
He whispered. They nodded, and then he wept. Real tears, heavy sobs. His chest shook. He clung to his father, clung like a little boy again. Mr. Samuel, who had held in his tears all day, broke down too. They wept together, father and son. The crowd was silent now. People whispered. Some prayed under their breath. Mama Grace was helped back into the house. She couldn't bear to watch anymore. The casket was finally lifted again. And this time, Junior walked behind it, quietly, still shaking, but present. There was no more shouting, no more struggle, only the long, heavy walk to the final place of rest. But no one, not one person, forgot what they had seen. That moment would stay with us forever. Something had spoken through Junior, something real. And the question nobody wanted to ask out loud was this: was it grief or something beyond it? The burial happened in near silence. No drums, no choir, just the thud of shovels and quiet tears. Junior stood beside his father, still, pale. People gave him space, though not too far. Some out of concern, others out of fear. Even as the final handful of sand fell over Uncle David's coffin, everyone was watching Junior, waiting, but he just stared into the earth, eyes wide, like he was still listening for a voice. After the burial, the family returned home. The chairs, the coolers, the leftover wrappers of gala and biscuits, everything was still there. But the atmosphere had shifted. No one could ignore what happened earlier, and no one dared talk about it openly. Not yet. Mama Grace stayed in her room, refusing food. Mr. Samuel tried to act normal, thanking visitors, offering water, but his voice was thin, forced. As for Junior, he went straight to his uncle's prayer spot by the corridor. He sat on the wooden stool Uncle David always used, and didn't move, not for minutes, not for hours. By evening, the whispers began. Auntie Ijeoma was the first to say it out loud.
That boy, something entered him. You saw it.
Uncle Dan nodded slowly. It wasn't ordinary, that voice. It wasn't Junior. Someone else suggested deliverance. Another mentioned mental illness. And just like that, the family was divided. Mama Grace refused to hear talk of spirits. She believed Junior was just mourning. Mr. Samuel wasn't sure, but he'd seen the strength in his son's arms. He had felt the shove. It wasn't normal. For the next few days, Junior didn't speak much. He avoided meals, slept during the day, stayed awake at night. He'd sit in the corridor, whispering softly. Nobody could make out what he was saying. Once, Mama Grace found him staring at his uncle's old Bible, pages open to Psalms. He looked up and said quietly,
He still wants to talk.
She didn't ask what he meant. She couldn't. That Friday night, the house didn't sleep. It began with a sound, singing, low and familiar. Someone was singing Uncle David's favorite hymn, Abide with me, fast falls the eventide. The voice echoed down the corridor. Everyone came out of their rooms. Junior wasn't there. They found him kneeling in the prayer spot, face to the ground, body shaking, but the voice kept singing, even though his lips weren't moving. By morning, Mr. Samuel had made up his mind. They needed help, not just prayers, not just silence. They needed someone who understood things of the spirit, not the noisy prophets on TV, someone real. He called Pastor Udo, a calm, wise man known to his late brother. When the pastor arrived, he sat beside Junior, said nothing at first, just watched, listened. Then he turned to the family. This boy is carrying more than grief, but it's not evil, not possession, not yet. Something unfinished is clinging to him. If we ignore it, it may not go quietly. Pastor Udo looked around the room. Whatever this is, it started with love. He looked at Junior, but love, even from the dead, can become a weight too heavy for the living. The room was silent. Even Junior looked shaken. And though nobody said it out loud, they all knew. The real battle hadn't even begun. The house was still. For the first time in a week, the sun rose without tension. No shouting, no whispering, no crying. Just the soft rustle of leaves outside and the occasional bark from the neighbor's dog. Junior was in his room, sitting on the floor, holding Uncle David's Bible to his chest. He hadn't spoken all morning, but he looked lighter, like something had shifted, not gone, but changed. Pastor Udo arrived before noon. He didn't bring oil. He didn't bring holy water, just a small notebook, a bottle of water, and his voice. He called for everyone to sit in the living room. Mama Grace, Mr. Samuel, Auntie Ijeoma, even the cousins. And of course, Junior. The pastor began softly. We will not cast out what came from love, but we will release what should be at rest. Pastor Udo didn't pray loudly. He asked questions, simple ones, meant only for Junior. What was your uncle's last promise to you? Junior hesitated, then answered in a soft, shaking voice.
He said he'd never leave me. He said even if he died, he'd watch over me.
Pastor Udo nodded. And what do you think he'd want for you now? Silence. Then Junior whispered,
To live, to grow, to be okay without him.
Pastor Udo invited Junior to pray. Not the usual family prayers, not memorized words, his own voice. Junior closed his eyes.
Uncle David, thank you. You loved me when I felt invisible. You made me feel seen, protected, special.
His voice cracked.
But I'm okay now. I will always love you, but it's okay to rest.
The room felt still, like something unseen had exhaled. Even the air seemed clearer. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low, Mama Grace was sweeping the corridor. She found a small folded note. tucked between the pages of Uncle David's Bible. She opened it with trembling fingers. It was his handwriting, a note from weeks before his death.
If God calls me home, I go in peace. Junior will be fine. I've seen his strength even when he doesn't. Tell him I am proud of him.
She showed it to Mr. Samuel, then to Junior. Junior smiled, real, soft, and sad. He knew, and that was the closure they didn't even know they needed. Days passed, then weeks. The prayers continued, but so did laughter. Junior returned to school. He started reading more, walking outside again. Not fully healed. No, grief doesn't work like that. But he was living. And Uncle David, he no longer haunted the house. His presence had shifted, from heavy to sacred, from a voice that clung to a memory that guided. What happened to Junior wasn't madness. It wasn't possession. It was love, unresolved, desperate, and overwhelming. And in homes where silence is louder than grief, love sometimes speaks the only way it knows how. Through voices, through dreams, through mystery. But when love is heard, truly heard, it can finally let go.